Hi, I'm Jean-Marc Prieur, a program manager on the Visual Studio ALM team. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can validate your architectural constraints in real time using the coming version of Visual Studio. I'm going to begin with a quick review of the topic. Unwanted dependencies are part of your technical debt. Then I'll remind you of what the experience was in previous version of Visual Studio Enterprise, and we'll see that this could be improved. Then I'll demo the new real-time dependency validation experience that you, as a developer, will benefit from in the coming version of Visual Studio. I'll also demo how easy it is to create a dependency validation diagram, and in the last demo, I'll show you what the migration experience is in case you are a current user of layered diagrams. Finally, I'll share with you resources that will enable you to go further. Last year, I presented an on-demand Connect video about managing technical debt. Since then, you told us that for you, technical debt also includes security vulnerabilities, license misuse, and unwanted dependencies. The first two are covered in a separate video on implementing security in the DevOps cycle by Sam. This video is about architectural dependencies. So what is dependency validation? You probably have heard of tiered application where, for instance, a user interface layer is authorized to call a business layer, which itself is authorized to access a data layer. But it would be bad for the UI layer to directly access data layers. The dependency validation diagram behind me expresses this kind of constraints. So you might tell me that's not new, and indeed, you could already use layer diagrams in Visual Studio Enterprise since Visual Studio 2010. But you'll see in a minute that the experience has much improved. In the slide behind me, I've shown what the experience used to be. You express dependencies in a layer diagram, and then you could either validate the diagram using a contextual command or part of the build. You express dependencies with arrows between layers, and you could also provide constraints on namespaces for a given layer through the properties window. For instance, you could say, do not reference anything in this particular namespace. So this worked, but had a certain number of limits, such as this was slow. Indeed, we needed to build and then process binaries. Because this came from binaries, the reported issues were not very precise. So typically, you didn't have the line number, but that was somewhere in this method. This was not very well integrated with the error list. For instance, you could not filter by files or projects or even error number. It was not integrated either to the standard rule-set mechanism, and therefore, you could not change the severity of the issues. They all were errors. Finally, it also used a different suppression mechanism from the standard code analysis rules. In the coming version of Visual Studio, we have rewritten the validation code to use routing analyzers, which fixes all these issues. In addition, this also gives us live validation in the IDE, so as you type, you get issues and squiggles in the editor. And you can immediately stop introducing architectural flaws. We've also renamed layer diagrams to dependency validation diagrams to make it clearer what they are for. So let me demo that. So here, I'm in Visual Studio. I've opened a solution with legacy code that I need to change, and I'm not very familiar with it. A dependency validation diagram was created by a code expert before he left for retirement, and he describes the design principle he wants to be enforced. So I was asked to add a feature, and I'm going to add to the checkout of a card in an e-commerce site, in this e-commerce site, some code. And I looked a bit, and I think that I need to use a type which is iItem. So I'm going to type that, iItem. And as I do that, I will get help from Visual Studio. So I start typing. But here, immediately, I see squiggles, red squiggles. And if I look in the error window, I see that, in fact, I am violating architectural constraints. I am from the UI layer, here this is the website, really trying to access, or at least having a variable for the moment in the data layer, which is not good. So what I will really have to do is rethink and go through the business layer. which is the authorized link. So you see that I was notified by a clear message early that I was violating architectural constraints in my solution. Now that you have seen what the developer experience is in the editor, let's see how to create a dependency validation diagram. I've opened in Visual Studio an ASP.NET classical application which I've started, which has a controller and a domain model class. And all the code is in the same assembly, and which means that if I don't pay attention, I or other people could draw silly dependencies. And I want to make sure that I respect a clean namespace structure. So to do that, I'm going to add a dependency validation diagram by going to the architecture menu and clicking New Dependency Validation Diagram. I accept the dialog, and what happens is a new project and a new project element dependency validation diagram is added, and I'm proposed to change my application, ASP.NET application, by updating it so that it supports live dependency validation. So I'm doing it. Some Rosling analyzers are provisioned, and now in my dependency validation diagram, I need to express that I want controllers to depend on models and not the contrary. A way to do that is always by doing a drag and drop from the Solution Explorer or the class view. Since this is about namespaces, we'll use the class view where I can drag the controller's namespace, then the model's namespace, and then go to the toolbox and add a dependency. I just expressed that controllers should depend on models and not the contrary. So now let's try it. I'm going to go to the backlogs class, and I'm going to do something really silly, which is to try to access something from the controller's namespace. So for example, the backlog controller. I'm adding a field of type backlog controller, and what do I see? Immediately I get this error that I'm violating the constraints that I've just expressed. So once you have committed this code, it will be available for the whole team. So the whole team will benefit from dependency validation, including in Visual Studio Pro and Community, where dependency diagrams cannot be created, but they can be viewed as read-only. The dependency validation will also happen during the continuous integration builds, and if you install the SonarQube plugin for dependency validation, you will even see the architectural flows in SonarQube. They are part of your technical debt. If you were already using layer diagrams, you might wonder how to benefit from the new experience. That's straightforward, and here is the demo. So here I've opened a solution which was created with a previous version of Visual Studio and had a layer diagram. And I am proposed with the same experience we've just seen, which is upgrading the solution to benefit from live validation, dependency validation. So I press the update button. The Nugget packages are provisions in each of the C# and VB projects. A few links are added, and then you will see that errors will start appearing in the error list, and this is because there were, in fact, dependency validation issues. So now there are errors, and because I'm integrated in the error list, I can filter by file and projects or code. Something I can also do is, if I am not satisfied with them being errors, I can go to the Analyzers menu, open the rule set, and change the errors to for example, being warnings. So, for example, if I do that for DV001 and I save, you will see that these errors will be transformed into warnings. 9 warnings, here they are. And then another thing, I told you we were fully now integrated with the suppression mechanism. So if I have good reasons to do that, for example, if that was a false positive, here I have just the permission of doing it from the architect. I can suppress it in the suppression file. That's it for the demos. I hope you found them useful. To conclude, here are some resources you can follow to find more information. I've included a link to the documentation and blog posts and more videos on Channel 9. Thanks for watching!